Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Welcome to another 2023 Project Orchids video. This is orchid number 3 and video number 5, the final in the set. So this is effectively the end of year summing up. This particular orchid has had a varied life through this year. We started off with repotting, and that ended up splitting the plant, and we chose one to move forward with. That didn't work so good. Anyway, have we still got the orchid in video number 5 at the end of the series? Well, video number 5 comes at the end of the other 4. Some of these are very short. The repot at the beginning takes up a fair bit of the video. You can choose to watch that, or fast forward, whatever you call it nowadays, skip, whatever. I will make a reference. It's something that dawned on me watching through the clips this morning. The words in the videos, the previous 4, are often edited to get rid of the introduction, because this is the introduction for the whole thing. I don't need to do it on every single video, so they are edited. But sometimes, because of the position in the video that I say the words, you still get to hear things like, and the info card is coming up now. Well, obviously it won't be. That was in the original video, which was posted on YouTube. It's not in the clip that I used to put these together. So that might be a bit misleading. Also, it may say that the like if you were watching video 3, it might say that the link to video 2 is in the description. Well, it's not. It would be if you were watching that video. But when they're all put together like this, words like that are meaningless, because basically all you get this time round is the playlist at the end, and the playlist in the description if you want it, because they're all joined together. So anyway, that's just to clear up that. And I can see a new bloom that we need to look at. Sorry, off topic. You won't be seeing that probably till Sunday now. It depends what I do tomorrow, Saturday. Anyway, let's get cracking and put these together to make a single video, which is video number 5 for orchid number 3. It's starting a bit different, because instead of sort of starting with looking at the plant and what I expect from it, the first thing I'm going to do is repot it, because it needs doing now. It's one of the plants that's high on my list because it's got the cocoa husk in it. And looking at the details for this, I got this back in June 2021 as a replacement plant because the previous one died. And it was repotted within the first couple of weeks after getting it. So the cocoa husk has been in there since June 2021 and has probably gone off by now. So let's get it out of the pot and see what we've got. What we've got is a lot of new growths, new roots growing. So if you look at this one actually produced 2 spikes, one out of the top and one out of the side, the traditional place. It didn't swell the bulb up very much after it finished blooming, but that probably took a lot of life out of that bulb. But we've got some new roots starting, and it's highly likely a new growth will come out of there soon. Now at the other end of the plant, we do have a new growth that's starting and has got quite a lot of root activity going on. So this is a pretty good time to think about repotting it. Now the golden rule when repotting zygos is minimal root handling. And we'll see how much we can get away with. The idea is to not touch, bend and bruise the roots, because they are very fragile and you might not think you're doing damage, but you probably are. So I'm going to see how much of this I can get to fall out. Right, well initially we've got an almost solid lump on the base of the plant. The reason being it was cropped with this rock hard bark, and that's, with all the roots that have gone down there, has turned into an almost solid lump. So damage is going to happen down here. These roots are rotten. They're in the soggy bottom of the pot, which shouldn't have happened with that large bark, but it obviously has. And the main reason is obviously the damp in the pot sinks downwards and it is staying too damp too long with stale water because of the cocoa husk. Now we're getting back to where there might be some reasonable roots now. I'm just going to gently squeeze this and see how much of it I can get to fall off without going mad. As I said, it does seem to have quite a lot of roots. And if I do damage some of these roots and they don't make it, we've got some new ones coming, but it would be nice not to lose all the old ones. Now obviously I'm doing a bit of bashing around with the roots at the moment, but if I want to get this cocoa husk out, what other choice have I got? You know, I've just got to find little gaps where I can just gently, I've got to get as much of it out as possible. The more I leave in there, the more it's going to go off and turn the new media off. And there is a large amount of cocoa husk in here. And it does smell like a mushroom factory. I think it's gone beyond its limitations. Unfortunately, it really is bound to the roots. You might have to just put up with quite a lot of these roots getting bashed around. I daren't leave a load of this cocoa husk in there, I daren't. It's just going to turn the new media off. But somehow or other it's got to come out. Well, you can see that it obviously grew a massive root system with the cocoa husk, so you can't say it was the wrong media, but it does go off. It does turn very acidic and can destroy root systems if not dealt with, and it's now turning out to be a right pain to get out to replace. So yes, it might have been a good choice to get a good root system to grow, but for the long-term future of the plant, I'd say no, because it makes repotting almost impossible without serious root damage. And you can't leave it in there, it goes off. So those are your choices. It obviously has generated a beautiful root system. You certainly can't complain about that. This is a solid mass of roots. How many of these are going to survive the repot, I don't know. Now what I'm thinking about now is if I repot that like that, I'm going to bury some of those central. Do you know, I don't know whether I've got two plants here, but I think I want two plants. These are little seedling bulbs in here. I think I'm going to split this. Now it may have already been two plants, I don't know. It may have been. So much for not damaging the roots. I'm just going to have to sacrifice them and hope that the new ones are going to replace what's gone. There's just no other way of doing it. You just can't get the media out. Now there's still some good roots here. Not totally destroyed. But all these, I mean a lot of these are rotten. Not very good at all. So what I'm going to do with this piece is I'm going to trim it. All these dangly little stringy bits, they're going to come off. And this is going to go in a small pot where it can dry out quickly in between waterings. I mean these rots here are rooted. More coffee. Well, that's why this is going not very well, because we haven't actually got a cup of coffee with us. A fatal mistake. I'm just taking off those that are obviously soggy and rotted, and it's mainly on the old bulbs, which is what you'd expect. And we've got some good new ones coming. And hopefully they're going to grow on in some nice new fresh media. Right, that'll do for that piece. Sheaths could do with coming off. Not so much as a big deal as it used to be now, because I think I'm on top of the scale. I think I've just dealt with them really, and there's no sign of any on this plant, that's for sure. Right, so we've got nice new growth, we've got some new root activity to replace the old. One last piece there. And that can go in a very small pot. I'm not going to put these pieces back in the same pot, because to get them in the same pot I would need to plant them at the wrong angle, and I mean that unfortunately is virtually separate, so let's separate it and start again. Now that's the old part of the plant. The chances are if I potted that it might actually shoot out. But we've already got two. And if I put them in the same pot, the pot will need to be too big and the media will stay wet too long, which I don't want to do. Because on this one, out of what's left, there's not quite so many dead ones this time, but there are some. Right, so there we go. Now that one hasn't got a new shoot yet, but it's showing signs of new root growth at the base of this previously bloomed growth, where hopefully we should get, so you can see all the new roots starting there. So this is going to grow on now. So we've got two pieces. I mean, these bulbs are quite shriveled. The chances are it would force a new growth out if I potted that. But what am I going to do with this? Well, those wouldn't be, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Not worth the struggle to bring on back bulbs. Let's concentrate on what we've got. So I'll have a quick clear up, we'll have a quick put this in a pot and decide, you know, I'll explain the media I'm going to use and why. So I'll be back. Okay, we've got two pots. I'm going to pot them separately. They're not as small as I at first sort of in my mind thought of, because you have to bear in mind what sort of root system we've just dealt with. It was pretty extensive. It actually filled that pot. So there has to be room to generate a reasonable root system. Now the failing on this has been leaving that in its pot too long, because although it generated a really good root system, obviously over that period of time that cocoa husk has gone off, and that was the demise of the roots, because there were far too many dead roots for a healthy plant. If that plant had still been growing well, then a lot of those roots would have still been alive and far more healthy, and therefore would have made it easier to repot. So it's been left in the pot too long, and I've got a list now that I've got to deal with of all the plants that have been potted up since I started using that cocoa husk, and I've got to go through the process of looking at the dates to prioritise them, those that have had the cocoa husk the longest. And you have to bear in mind that this was potted up in the old place. And it was potted up to grow on as a vigorous plant using the heat and the light to generate that extra vigour in the plant. Yeah? I can't do that anymore. I've now got to pot it up based on the fact that I've got cooler temperatures and it won't be as vigorous. So let's see what we can do then. And once we've got them in the pots, we'll choose which one we're going to have as the project plant. And I don't think it'll be this one, it'll be the other one with the new growth, because that makes more sense. The mix I'm using is everything I've got. It's small, medium and my larger bark, all mixed in together with some grow stones and a bit of charcoal. And that's what I'm using. I'm going to pot this quite deep, and gently. And the fact that I've got 2 pots to do, I haven't mixed up anywhere near enough. So how are we doing then? I want the bulbs just underneath the surface, and I am going to press down the sides to make that reasonably firm to hold the plant, and that's not where the roots are, so I'm not doing any root damage by compacting that. I think we might need a stake. Yes, we will. It's because of the long floppy leaf. Right, so what have we got down here? That'll do. Now all I want to do is hold one of the bulbs. So I'll pick the oldest one, stick the stake down there, and then what we'll do is we'll just put a clip round there to hold it against the stake. What do we want then? Something like that. That makes it firm now, and the new roots are going to have some little stuff around them so that they can now grow down into the pot. So that pot looks too big. These are capable of generating really good root systems, so give them the room to do it. And unfortunately I've used up most of my... There certainly isn't enough there to do another pot, I don't think. Well, you never know. So with this one, we've got a better root system coming, yeah, and a new growth to follow on. I'm going to take that leaf off because it interferes, excuse me, with the new growth. That's that charcoal dust, I bet. Right, so that's what we've got. Oh, that root really is bad. No, take it off. It looked all right when I was going over them, but it isn't. And oh, that dude could fiddle around with this forever. Get them out of the way, otherwise they'll go in the pot. Right, let's see what we can do then. And again, you know, the new growth needs to be in the centre of the pot so that it's got plenty of room to expand. Just about enough. Yeah, it's really good. And the beauty of having a bark mix with no soggy organics like moss or the cocoa husk is that I can pop the bulbs a little bit deeper, because the bark will never stay soggy until it starts getting old enough that it needs replacing anyway. So I've just got a couple of really big bits near those new roots, and I'd rather have the new roots going into smaller stuff. So, there we go. And this one will stay up on its own, so this doesn't need staking. Again, I'll just do a little bit of compression down the side, just to make sure it's firm. You have to bear in mind, zygo hybrids, it's difficult to tell what you're up against, because some zygos grow up the tops of trees as real, genuine, serious epiphytes, and others grow down in the leaf litter and the sogginess on the ground and are, well, at least semi-terrestrial, if not full terrestrials. And when you've got hybrids, you don't know what your mix is. So is it a bright light? Is it a shady? You know. Anyway, this is the one we will keep as our project orchid, simply because we've got a new growth to monitor that may actually throw a spike. It depends how quickly those new roots get going and put some vigour back into the plant. but it's got a lovely big bulb there and a couple of extra back bulbs to back up that new growth with some new roots, so I think it should push on quite well. And we will revisit in 2 months' time to see how well it's doing. Now, the first video was a repot, and during that repot the plant was split, and the other piece was the piece we decided to keep for the project orchids with a strong new growth on it. That growth rotted and took out the base of the bulbs, so it had to be thrown away. So I've switched to the other piece, which is doing okay. So what's this orchid doing then? Well, the most important thing it's doing is it's pushing out roots. We do have new roots. We also have a growth here, a growth here, and something here. And I hope none of those are flower spikes. This is a strange pseudo bulb. It's bloomed and it produced a secondary pseudo bulb on top of the first one, which also bloomed. This is not normal, to say the least. Anyway, this growth here has signs of roots, so I will gently remove that. See, there we go there. So by removing this sheath, I won't do it now because I've only got one hand, we will get even more roots down into the pot. But we have root growth, we have growths. And if any of this is spikes, I'll take them off. This plant's not strong enough to bloom. What we want now is 1 or 2 nice strong plump bulbs, because the old bulb is offering virtually no support to the plant at all. It's totally shriveled. This wasn't the good piece. This was the piece I wasn't expecting to do well, and it's happened to turn out to be the better of the two. So all I can hope for this is for it to grow on and decide not to bloom, produce a new root system, good strong root system, and some new growths, and get some more leaves and some plump bulbs and get some strength back into the plant. Once this set of growths have been done with and have grown to their maximum, any subsequent growths after that that come out of these growths, if they want to bloom, they can. But that's a way down the line. I'm just pleased I've still got one piece, because the other piece looked like the better piece, quite honestly. Anyway, that's what we've got, and that's what we'll work with for the rest of the season. And yes, we'll come back in 2 months' time and see how it's doing. This is video number 3 for orchid number 3, which is the Zygopetalum Louisendorf, which is in a state of recovery. It's fair enough. So let's have a look at the progress on this then. Back in video 2 we had 2 new growths just starting. Well, one is sort of progressing, the other one appears to be stationary. But what has happened since last time is an awful lot of root growth. Nice strong healthy roots pushing down into the pot, and a lot of them if you look round the base of the plant. So I can't really ask for more than that. A good root system for zygos is essential. If you haven't got a good root system and you repot, you're highly likely to lose the plant because they damage so easily. Anyway, got some nice strong roots growing down into the pot. It's fresh media, it was repotted this year. We should get some progress on growths as the season progresses. So I've got almost as much as I could wish for a rescue zygo, which is a root system. Without that, it's not going to do much. So, right, as I said, short and sweet, and we'll come back in 2 months' time and see how much more of a root system we've got and whether we've got any progress with the actual growths above ground. So we have progress, that's the main thing. In the last video we had this new growth, which has done nothing, and this new growth just starting and looks like it might actually grow. Well, firstly it has grown. It's now got a spike, and you're not going to like this. That's coming straight off. I've only just noticed it today. So that's coming off. This plant's not strong enough to support the flowers. I want the energy to go into this growth, and more importantly, last time we looked we had some roots growing. Well, we now have a lot more roots in the pot. So we've got a root system, and we have one new growth pushing on, attempting to bloom, and been stopped in its tracks. Yeah, having taken that spike off, this growth will hopefully eventually produce a bulb, but it could trigger this one into growth, or better still, start a brand new one. So we've got progress on this. I won't say it's dramatic. 2 months worth of growth has basically pushed this on and started a spike. But as I said, I don't believe the plant has enough strength to carry on with that spike, and so it's now been removed. So we'll come back in 2 months and see the progress. I mean, I've always had difficulty growing Zygos. Most of the problems seem to stem around the repotting and the following demise. Whereas, you know, this one has been repotted, it's starting to grow roots. It's not progressing at a tremendous rate, but there is some progress. So that's all I can hope for. And for the next 2 months, literally, I'd like another new growth to push on. And hopefully this one produce a nice swollen bulb. So we'll see how we go. But yeah, it's still, I would say, struggling. But at least it's making progress. Okay, so at the end of the year, the good thing is we still have the plant. Is it doing brilliantly? No. Is it failing? No. It's in between. Now, I'm sure to the horror of some of you, in video number 4, this growth produced a spike which I cut off. Plant's not strong enough to bloom, not yet. And we had a little growth over here that I said was highly unlikely to grow. Right, so the progress we've got now is we've got what looks to be a reasonably strong growth coming up here, and another one here. In addition to that, the previous growths have produced a good root system. We've now got strong roots down in the pot. The combination of strong roots and some new growths should put the strength back into this plant. It's had its repot, it's in bark, there's some other stuff in there, I think it was grow stones and charcoal. Nonetheless, the media it's in will last it several years now, so these roots can stay undisturbed, which is the best way to look after Zygopetalums. Leave the roots alone as long as you possibly can. And when you do have to touch the roots due to a repot, take extreme care. Don't take any notice of my repot at the beginning of this video, which was a bit brutal. It's just how it had to be because of the media it was in that had started to break down and go sour and had to be removed. By hook or by crook, it would have only destroyed the roots anyway. So that was brutal, and that's not the way to go about Zygos. Gentle, gentle, gentle all the way. They bruise really easy, Zygo roots, and then they often rot at that point. So part way down the root where you've bruised it, you lose the rest of the root. So go careful. As far as looking after Zygos are concerned, they're not actually that fussy. The damage is usually done at repot time, and after that is when they go downhill because the repot damaged the roots and they then can't support themselves. But these can tolerate some heat. They would prefer normally to be a bit cooler. Some say if you give them more heat they will become more vigorous. When they become more vigorous, they will need a bit more light to go with it, and they will need more feed and more frequent watering, if you can get away with it. Some of them won't take it because some of them come from cooler areas. They're not all warm growers, and they're not all bright light orchids. Some grow in the top of trees, some grow down in the swamps. You know, they are quite different, and when you're looking at hybrids in particular, it's difficult to work out the care. I always say, if in doubt, go down the middle. Grow intermediate in medium to good light. And don't let them stay dry for any length of time. And that'll do. They should do okay. Because this is in relatively new bark, you can see the roots are damp because of the greenish tinge to them. But if you look at the bark, it looks quite dry. That's around the edge of the pot and at the top of the pot. I suspect the middle of the pot's still wet. When was this last watered? 7 days ago. Is it going to get watered today? No. It'll get watered tomorrow with all the others. And that's how I work. Yeah, I water when I water. Some plants might be getting water a little bit early. Some might have could have perhaps done with it a day or two ago. I can't be doing with spreading my workload around like that. So when I water, the set get watered, and that's when this one will get done. But we have new growths. We have a root system. I suspect these new growths will push on slowly through the winter months, and then hopefully either produce some more in the spring when the temperatures get better again, or push on better at that time of year. But at least it made it through the year, even though the other piece didn't. The other piece was the larger, stronger piece. That just got the rot in the new growth, just set in and wiped the plant out basically. This one's okay. Not brilliant, it's okay. Right, that's the end of that one. So there we go then. That was the Zygo and orchid number 3. Next Friday we will move on to orchid number 4 and progress 1 week at a time until we get up to orchid number 8. And then I might actually do a final summary of the whole season for the whole of the project, and perhaps give some clues as to what the project might consist of next year. The nuthatch on the nuts. I doubt if I'll be able to zoom in. No, it's already gone. I've only got a flinch and they're off like a shot. Anyway, see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.